This is my second video on the experiences that I had at Rawhyde Adventures in California. My previous video was about Friday when I attended the pre-clinic. That was a little bit unusual. I'll link to that video in the description. This video is going to cover Saturday and Sunday. Most of the content is going to be from Sunday because the vast majority of what happened on Saturday was the same exercises that I did on Friday and is covered in my earlier video. This is the Intro to Adventure class. Unfortunately, I seem to not have been recording during the very first exercise of the Saturday. It was an on-the-road exercise. We were throwing our leg over the bike and standing on one foot peg, either on the left side or the right side with our entire body, and then moving between. That's also in addition to practicing shifting while standing. While heading back towards the compound, he was having us practice going in sort of S-type motions, going left and right, without using our handlebars, just weighting our foot pegs.
So I find it interesting how different schools teach different techniques, right? So if you look at SEDLAC, or formerly SEDLAC Off-Road School, now SoCal Off-Road School, they teach more of an upright standing position, meaning not necessarily counterbalancing. When you're putting weight on your foot pegs, you're still standing upright without counterbalancing. And these folks at Rawhyde teach counterbalancing. And I've seen a few other people or other like YouTuber type people having different opinions on this stuff. It's interesting to see, because I've been going back and forth. I've been sort of practicing counterbalancing while standing, and then for a while I was trying to do it the SEDLAC way and getting good at that. I mean, I shouldn't say good at it, but practicing it. I don't know, I definitely have an inbuilt tendency to want to prefer the counterleaning technique, I think. Besides the arguments for and against from a technical perspective, just from a feel perspective, it's sort of it just feels natural to me. Which is the same when I'm riding off on the street, and there's all sorts of opinions on. Oh, we're gonna bunch up and talk.
As with my previous video, I'm going to be including some riding footage when we're riding around, and you can see a little bit what the riding is like on the property. In general, I really enjoy the property, so I wanted to make sure to include that in addition to just the exercises.
It's a nice environment to try to ride in, to practice riding in. Everybody needs their own, X thousand acre riding area.
The instructor is now taking us through a loop. These cones that you're seeing here are going to be cones that we're going to be weaving through in a little bit. But right now they're just taking us through sort of the circle that we're going to be going in as we're doing the next exercise.
want to go. There are cones. Going straight next to cones just feels wrong. There are cones. They're supposed to be gone around, you know.
Now we start the exercise with the cones. We're going to go through the same circle and weaving through the cones, and they're going to be moving the cones wider apart horizontally as time goes by. This is the last pure exercise of the day. We're going to do circles, then the figure eights with multiple bikes in the figure eight at any given moment. We'll then go to the ribbon course. And a little bit of riding to the next exercise. And here we are arriving at the location of the ribbon course, which you may have seen in my previous video.
How do you demo it?
Okay. I'm gonna fall and make a bad example.
You crushed it yesterday. So guys, we got through day 1 curriculum. We're still alive. No blood, no oil. Yeah.
I then went a second time. I was hoping to do better. I ended up dabbing my leg on that previous run.
All right, without dabbing this time is my plan. We shall see if it works out. Yes, it does. No dab, although definitely cut it pretty close to that pin, not pin, whatever you want to call it, the thing sticking out of the ground. All right, start of day 2. I'm told that we're gonna have a little less specific exercises and a little bit more riding in between the exercises relative to day 1. So it should be fun. Looks like we're gonna start at the meadow. I think they told us that. Doing some of the following the chalk line as a warm-up exercise, I think. Maybe not. Maybe we're going for a little bit more of a spin before.
We did a little bit more exercises that I was mentioning at the beginning of the video. Turns out I do have footage of doing them from the second day. So throwing our legs over the bike, standing on one side and so on. And then coming back, we were shifting gears while standing again.
Ooh. Doing the throwing over of the leg. It's very easy to practice that, using a lot of pressure on my handlebar as I'm doing that. It's probably a more balanced way of doing it.
And a brief stint following the lines. And then over to another part of the property where we had some different lines to follow. This one is more just tight turns at a bit of an off camber. On to one of my favorite exercises of the day, just following a little bit of a longer kind of trail of sorts on a hillside. So there's ups and downs, cambers, and so on, left turns, right turns, some of them more tight than others, some of them on soft sand, and so on. This was a really nice exercise. And then we switched to doing the same trail in the other direction. And due to what the layout of the trail is, that meant some of the more difficult turns are now on a downhill instead of an uphill.
All right, we're doing downhill turning now. Basically the same route in the other direction, and so there's going to be a bunch of downhill turns, managing your speed and so on. And for the first lap, I'm gonna try mostly rear brake only. Though I did use a little bit of front brake for a bit. Definitely hard to moderate speed without accidentally locking it. Or stalling it in that case.
And just for good measure, I should include a case where I drop the bike as well.
Whoa. Whew.
Next, we're doing these whoops.
Front brake. Just stabilize it downhill.
They're encouraging us to really go through the soft stuff in the turn prior to the whoops, which is nice. I try to do that now. Like just feeling like I'm not going to hold the group up if I fall. It was a nice feeling, just forcing myself to do it a little bit and sort of sliding around, including the front a little bit, but ultimately not to the point where I lost it. So we'll see. Every time we come up to the whoops, we're going to go through that same soft stuff.
I'm now referring to going through the whoops in the other direction, and there's a bunch of soft sand at the very bottom of those whoops.
As opposed to strategically avoiding it. Nice. Went really well. Had to save it there with a bit of gas or I would have dropped, but that felt quite natural, to be honest. I'm happy with that. Now I'm probably going to be overconfident and fuck it up next time, but you know.
What I was referring to there was that as I was coming up to the whoops through that sandy section, my tires were about to wash out, and I applied some throttle to get out of it and basically save it, which is a maneuver that you're doing a lot on like a dirt bike as you're learning and so on, but I haven't really done that on an adventure bike, like a big bike, before. And some more riding coming up in a new area that I hadn't been to before.
Whoa!
After lunch, we did a few more of these. And then rode through this hillside trail again.
Whoops. Not great. That tree really screws me up. Psychologically. Right, let's see. There we go. Slid out a little bit. Saved it.
We then rode around in a few different places that you've already seen, and then we rode up an uphill that we haven't seen, but unfortunately I do not have footage of that. We're now kind of at the top of that, and it was kind of a uphill with gravel, a little bit of rocks, nothing extremely difficult, just, you know, kind of a long uphill. And we're now at the crest of a downhill, and we're going to do some downhill and uphill exercises in this area. The first exercise is to go down this hill very slowly, controlling the speed with our brakes.
Whoops.
Now the second time around, no brakes.
Alright, for this time we're supposed to not touch the brakes and just go for engine braking in first gear. Sliding around a little bit, but went fine.
This time we're doing a trail stop in the downhill and then letting go and letting it engine brake.
Perfect. Good job.
And there we go.
Next we're doing it uphill, the first time in first gear. And at the very end there, that was a trail stop, which we were asked to do as we reached the top of the hill. Second time around, we're still doing first gear, but in this case, instead of going up slowly, we're going to sort of give it some gas and really go up the hill with speed, but still in first gear. And then second gear. And some more riding in a loop that we're about to start doing hill start exercises in. And now the hill start exercise.
What are you doing?
Sorry?
Talk us through it. Tell us what you're going to do.
I'm gonna cover the rear brake,
Yep.
clutch in, gotta get it up to 2,500 or so.
Yep.
Start letting the clutch out, and when I notice it's biting and it's bogging down, I'll start releasing the rear brake and also continuing to get the clutch out and then apply throttle as needed.
Perfect. Do it to it, buddy.
I don't know if I'm gonna get it right. I can explain it, but that's a different matter.
Okay, you will.
So,
Just do what you said you're going to do.
yeah, exactly. All right.
Got the right idea.
Next, they took us through the typical hill recovery technique where you sort of back your bike into a horizontal position and then you wiggle your handlebars from lock to lock to make the front wheel point downwards, and then you can roll down the hill. We didn't actually do the exercise, I think because of a time saver reasons, I'm guessing. So we moved on to the next one. And said next exercise is sand, which I find fun. And then again going a little bit faster. And then in second gear. And I'll show you the ride back down the hill that I didn't have footage for going up. So you'll see the footage going in the other direction at least. And then back to some more sand, but this time a little deeper, a little softer sand in a different sand pit.
I've never surfed, but it feels like that's close to surfing, what that might feel like. I don't know.
That was the last exercise of the day, and that concluded the weekend. Because it happened to be the case that there was an open house at the same time where people got to test ride the F900 GS. I was able to do that for just a couple of minutes, but that's not part of the general program. Overall, I really enjoyed it. It was really valuable, lots of hours of riding. If you're interested in my thoughts on whether to go for one-on-one coaching versus group training, I have a video on that. I'm going to link it down below. And also feel free to look at the previous video about the pre-clinic on the Friday that I also did at Rawhyde. Also linked down below. Thank you for watching.
What does it feel like? I don't want to drop it, so I'm not doing any super tight turns or anything like that.